You can go right now. It's okay. I don't know where he is.
We need. Good morning, everyone. I'm City Council Member.
You're in the shop.
I'm sorry.
Good morning, everyone. I'm City Council Member Richie Torres. I represent the neighborhood of the Central Bronx, and I chair the Committee on Oversight and Investigation. I'm proud to be joined by Leandra Guzman Feliz, Guzman Feliz, and we are here to provide you with the latest updates on the attempt to defraud the Guzman family. As many of you know, the killing of Junior Guzman was one of the most vicious acts of gang violence that our city has seen in recent memory. And whenever there is a tragedy, there are vultures lining up to exploit the suffering of those in mourning. And one such vulture is a man by the name of Reynolds Gregg, who was known by his abbreviated name, R.E. Gregg. A little background before I make the latest announcement. R.E. Gregg, even though he had no affiliation with the New York City Council, R.E. Gregg for years led an organization known as the New York City Council Community Affairs Bureau, pretending to be an entity of city government. Calling himself the chief of the New York City Council Community Affairs Bureau, he would deceive members of the public with fraudulent badges, fraudulent business cards, fraudulent uses of city council insignia. He would even invite members of the public to join his organization and attempt to swindle them out of various charges. He would charge them $50 for application and processing fees, $50 for background check fees, $150 for a one-time licensing fee for a shield, $35 for business cards, $50 for a polo shirt, one polo shirt with a name and rank, $150 for an illegal parking placard, which is a total of $535, plus $450 for one-time training fees, which include all training materials, your ID, and certificate of appointment, and $130 for a full jacket with name and rank. So as you can see, it's an elaborate scheme, and when a number of council members, including myself, brought the matter to the attention of the General Counsel of the New York City Council. And as a result, the General Counsel sent the New York City Community Affairs Bureau a cease and desist letter. And there's a copy right here. Undeterred, R.E. Gregg reestablished his organization under a new name, the New York State Community Affairs Bureau. And he went as far as he had the audacity to attempt to defraud the family of Junior Guzman. He had Leandra Guzman Feliz sign under false pretenses a letter authorizing him to raise funds on behalf of Junior's family and in Junior's name. And instead of pretending to be an entity of city government, he referred to himself as the commissioner of the New York State Community Affairs Bureau, this time pretending to be an entity of state government. And so when I came to discover the attempt by R.E. Gregg to defraud the family of Leandro Guzman Feliz, I immediately referred the matter to the Attorney General's office and the City Department of Investigations, which is presently investigating Mr. Gregg. And we asked the Governor's office to send the New York State Community Affairs Bureau a cease and desist letter. And I'm happy to report that the Governor's office has done so. The Governor's office directed the Department of State to send the New York State Community Affairs Bureau a cease and desist letter, and a copy is right here. And I will read from it. It indicates, ladies and gentlemen, the records of the New York Department of State indicate that a certificate of incorporation of the non-for-profit corporation New York Community Affairs Bureau Incorporated was filed on July 6, 2018, and the certificate of amendment, which changed the corporate name to New York State Community Affairs Bureau, was filed on August 10, 2018. Unfortunately, I must advise you that both the certificate of incorporation and the certificate of amendment were erroneously filed with the Department of State. Paragraph 6 of Subdivision 6A of Non-for-Profit Corporation Law, Section 301, provides that the name of a non-for-profit corporation shall not contain any words or phrases in a context which will tend to mislead the public into believing that the corporation is an agency or an instrumentality of the United States or state of New York or a subdivision thereof, or is a public corporation. The Department of State had determined that both the name Community Affairs Bureau and the name New York State Community Affairs Bureau indicate to the public a corporation possessing either such name is an agency or instrumentality of the state of New York, a subdivision thereof, or a public corporation. The combination of the description Community Affairs Bureau combined with the words New York State indicates to the public some kind of governmental status rather than the entity's actual status as a non-for-profit corporation. In accordance with the requirements of Non-for-Profit Corporation Law 301, a non-for-profit corporation is not authorized to use either the name, the New York Community Affairs Bureau Incorporated, or the name, the New York State Community Affairs Bureau Incorporated. And so I'm hopeful that the combination of these two cease and desist letters, one from the New York City Council and one from the New York State Department of State, will cripple the ability of R.E. Gregg to continue defrauding members of the general public. And so with that said, I want to invite Leandra to say a few words.
I want to say thank you, God, for saving me from those people. I don't even have an idea what kind of people were around me. I'm so surprised. That's so scary to me right now. I have to say.
What about the people who started the Justice for Juniors Foundation? Khalil and David Estrella.
They haven't called me anymore.
They don't call you anymore?
No.
And what can you say about that? And there were other foundations that were started that you wrote a cease and desist letter from you and from Junior's father, Lesandro. You were both on this letter that said we don't want you to represent our son's name without talking to us.
Oh, the Greg?
Another letter.
No, I don't want nothing with nobody, not even those people, because I just knew now what kind of people they are. I didn't know that.
Do you have a foundation that you have started?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I'm waiting to do it.
You're waiting to do it.
Yes.
And so what can you tell us about that? There were a number of different groups that were invoking Junior's name, including a very reputable foundation that was started by a police family that lost their father, their husband in the line of duty. They were mentioning Junior's case.
I mean, I would tell members of the public to be careful not to contribute to organizations lightly without doing your due diligence. Just because you have an organization that invokes the name of Junior Guzman or his family does not mean it has the blessing of his family. I think the concern about the foundation, the Justice for Junior Foundation, there's no evidence of fraud, but it was established without the authorization of the family. Right? And I did tell the creators of the foundation that you had no right to establish the foundation without the approval of the family. But in the case of the Community Affairs Bureau, there's ample evidence of fraud. He's under investigation from the Attorney General's office and the City Department of Investigations, which is a criminal law enforcement agency. And there's a clear attempt to defraud members of the public, to swindle members of the public out of their money so that they can join his organization, and creating a false impression that he is an entity of city and state government.
I saw in one of the letters that they were asking for over $500 to get police placards, a T-shirt.
A total of $580.
Just to join the New York State
For
Community
application
Affairs.
and processing fees, background check fees, licensing fees for the shield, business cards, a polo shirt, a parking placard, one-time training fees, and a full jacket with name and rank. So it's an intricate plot to mislead members of the public.
So there's no update on what the Attorney General's office is doing in terms of
we know
taking action?
We know that the investigations are ongoing. I've been in contact with the City Department of Investigations, which I oversee in my capacity as the chair of the Oversight and Investigations Committee. But investigations do take time. But this is a major development. The fact that R.E. Gregg can no longer use government names or symbols cripples his ability to continue perpetrating a fraud against the people of New York.
Well, did the state take action against him, or just by you writing the letter?
So
You
we
can't.
made the request of the governor's office. The governor's office then directed the Department of State to issue a cease and desist letter against the New York State Community Affairs Bureau. So the state did take action.
So, Ms. Feliz, this whole time now, it's 3 months, just over 3 months since your son was killed. Would you say more people have tried to take advantage, or more people have really just done good for you and your family?
No, I haven't seen no more people. I haven't seen no more people to come to ask me for foundation and nothing. No more.
No more people are coming to you for a foundation?
No.
So you think it's slowed down a little bit?
Yeah, because now I have to be careful with the people who I am going to talk about it. I have to have the right person.
Do you think you're getting closer to finding out the truth of what happened with your son the night that he was killed? 14 people are now in custody.
Wow. I don't know yet. I don't know nothing yet. Nobody told me nothing else. I just hear a lot of people talking. Everybody been talking different. Rumors. I'm not sure anything about. But I want to find out the truth.
You want the truth. And there are a lot of rumors on social media, right? On Instagram and other different types of social
Only
media.
thing that I won't gonna believe, like, because they say I need some proof.
You need proof?
Yes.
Okay.
Lesandro, how do you feel about the fact that this guy is taking advantage of your son's marriage?
Excuse me. Can you just get...
Really,
yeah,
at the
you need to
moment
get out
when
as
they
soon as you
went to
can.
me, I wasn't really clear. You know, I wasn't thinking nothing. I was like in blank. Today I feel a little bit like I'm
If you
waking
do
up.
something fast, because it's...
But I'm not really up. Not yet. You know, and I didn't get nothing from the people. I hear everybody talking. Everybody say this and that, pulling me this one side to the other side, but I didn't get nothing. And I don't keep nothing in my head.
When you said you didn't get nothing, what
In my head, I don't keep nothing.
Let me just
I
take
hear
the mic.
everybody talking, but in the
Just I
second,
gotta ask you a
I
question.
delete it.
Okay. Just, if you could start lying.
do you hope happens with this guy? Do you hope he goes to jail?
Of course, I was there for the death penalty for all of them. Yes, for 300 years.
They don't have the death penalty in New York, though.
300 years. 300 years for the killer. Like 300 years for the killer. For
In other words, they could get 300 years if they were convicted on everything?
yeah. They don't let those people never come out again. That was so abusive. So abused to 15 men for one kid with 15 years old. This is 1 man per year of my son. He was only 15 years, an innocent baby.
Have you stopped watching the footage? Have you stopped watching
Yes, I
the
did.
different
I stopped.
angles of the chase and the attack?
I did stop because so I cannot see it. You know, sometimes I look at it to get information, to see what happened, what's going on, but I can't look no more. I have to stop.
You have to stop looking at the footage.
Mhm.
It seems a lot of people are interested in the case. They want every new piece of information.
I want to say thank you very much to the people who's looking of proof and information. I want they still doing it because they help me a lot to find the truth. They are helping.
You still think that there are secrets out there, that there's more information to find out?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm not sure. I would like to find out something, but I don't know.
Councilman, can you tell us more about Mr. Gregg? Have you been in touch with him? Have you ever let him know about this?
I've seen him around. I know that he has led the organization, the New York State Council Community Affairs Bureau, for a number of years. And it always struck me as odd. I'm a member of the City Council. I had never seen him in the City Council, so it was always odd to me that he would be using the name and symbols. And then I came to find out that he was a fraud. So when I submitted a complaint, he received a letter from the General Counsel of the New York City Council telling him to cease and desist from using City Council insignia in the City Council's name.
So he's been doing this for a number of years.
Quite a few years. And then he reestablished his organization as the New York State Community Affairs Bureau. And it did not become public until he attempted to defraud the family of Leandra Guzman Feliz.
But why do you think it took so long? I mean, clearly he was doing this for a long time. I mean, how many years is he doing this under this false organization? You know?
I don't know the exact number of years, but it's been a long time. It's not a new fraud. He was able to call himself the commissioner of the New York City Council, I'm sorry, the chief of the New York, in fact, we have, I think right there, Chief R.A. Gregg, it's not R.A. Gregg, R.A. Gregg, Chief R.A. Gregg of the New York City Council Community Affairs Bureau for a number of years without ever facing scrutiny from law enforcement. It was not until he attempted to defraud Leandra that he came under scrutiny from law enforcement.
And how did that play out? Did she contact someone? How did, like, why that particular case? I know it's big, but what led to, you know, how did
I think my office received a copy of
his mother, and then come
I submitted a complaint against Mr. Gregg even before the killing of Junior Guzman, right? So he had been on my radar even before the tragic stabbing. And then when I saw that he had Leandra sign under false pretenses a letter authorizing him to raise funds on behalf of the family, then I knew this was the latest manifestation of his fraud. And so that letter was signed on August 2nd. On August 6th, I immediately reached out to the governor's office asking that the state send a cease and desist letter. And the state finally did so more than a month later.
So Councilman Torres, he actually seems to wear different hats. He's been in churches dressed as a minister. He's called himself a lawyer, I believe. His father's a lawyer and has an office.
So he claims to be a lawyer, even though there's no evidence that he has a legal law license. He originally claimed to be the chief of the New York City Council Community Affairs Bureau. Then he rebranded himself as the commissioner of the New York State Community Affairs Bureau. But the cease and desist letter makes it clear that he can no longer use any government titles, government names, government symbols. It's over. So it's not as if he can rebrand it as a new government entity. It's over. The cease and desist letter is pretty clear that he can no longer lead the public to believe that he is an entity of government.
And this is the thing I asked you before. Can you read what he was getting or asking for when people would join his organization? He had all these different fees.
Sure. He sent a letter to a constituent. He said, attached, please find the New York State Community Affairs Bureau overview, organization, and application that must be completed and emailed back ASAP. Your New York State Community Affairs Bureau shield and ID will be ordered upon payment. The following must be paid ASAP so that we can begin. $50 for an application and processing fee, $50 for a background check fee, $150 for a one-time licensing fee for shield, $35 for business cards, $50 for one polo shirt with name and rank, $150 for a parking placard, a total of $535. Please provide your credit card number so that it may be processed, or if payment is via check or cash, please advise so it may be picked up or dropped off. Also in September, the following will be collected in 2 installments: $450 for one-time training fees, which includes all training materials, your ID, and certificate of appointment. Training will take place on 2 Saturdays. $130 for full jacket with name and rank, a total of $580, $260 to be paid on September 1st, and $260 to be paid on September 15th.
And the Junior
Dr.
Foundation,
R.A. Gregg.
the Junior organization or people that are related to Junior never saw any of this money, I'm assuming.
The Community Affairs Bureau?
No, Junior's family, did they benefit from any of this? He was, in other words, he was just collecting.
I think we managed to derail the scheme before he could even execute it. But my concern is he has a pattern of fraudulent behavior, and it's not enough to derail one scheme. We have to hold him criminally accountable.
So he's raised no money on behalf of them?
I mean, I suspect he has raised money, but again, he's under investigation. I don't have the benefit of the findings of those investigations. I just want to keep the public updated as the investigation progresses, and when it's complete, I'll be sure to come up with another update.
So, Ms. Feliz, do you feel that you're protected now? If you can come closer to the microphone. Do you feel that with these steps by the council members and others, that you're protected from fraud?
Yes, I am protected. It's obvious. Everybody knows. Yes, I am. They're working good. Thank you very much.
But in the beginning, wasn't there a woman from this organization that presented herself as a pastor and was your spiritual advisor, and you thought that she was there to benefit you with prayer?
This is so bad. somebody is to be doing something in the name of the Jesus. That's the chief is doing. See what they have now? Because they're using his name. Name the Jesus, gotta be careful. He's the only one powerful. It's like that is with me, I know.
Leandra, muchas personas te han ayudado. Tú nunca imaginaste que algo así iba a suceder, que una persona viniera a tratar de...
Nunca. No me imaginaba nada, absolutamente nada de lo que estoy pasando.
¿Cómo pasó? ¿Cómo llegó eso?
En la funeraria, sí. Ahí llegaron tantas personas que de ahí la conocí.
Y él se presentó con estas placas, cuando llegó, ¿cómo fue todo?
Bueno, de él no, a él yo lo conocí ya en el evento que hicieron en el Manhattan para los dominicanos, la herencia dominicana, en el, ¿cómo se llama? United Palace. Ahí lo conocí, ellos estaban todos ahí en el United Palace.
¿Tú confiaste?
En la pastora.
Entonces fue en el nombre de Dios prácticamente.
En el nombre de Dios. En el nombre de Dios.
Te hace cambiar de pensar después que te pasó una cosa así.
Siempre creo demasiado en Dios. Demasiado creo en Dios. No me deja sola, nunca he estado sola. Siempre está conmigo. En cada paso que doy, en cada paso que doy. Él es que maneja, él tiene control de mí.
¿Cómo te salió del consejo entonces ahora?
Bien, gracias. Muy bien. De la justicia terrenal. Señor le da a cada uno de ustedes, a nosotros, el poder de usted. Son virtudes como usted, periodista, él como concejal. Todo eso es lo que Dios quiere.
Councilman, can you explain again the letter of cease and desist from the governor's office? Did they issue by mistake some kind of certification that it was a non-profit organization, and they're acknowledging that, or?
There was no acknowledgement. There was no acknowledgement of mistake on the part of the state.
Okay.
I think there was a
filed
letter.
Petition.
There was a file, so he does have a non-for-profit filed with the state.
It was never
The
approved.
trouble with his filing is that it uses a name that creates a deceptive impression that he is an entity of state government or city government, which is a violation of state law as well as local law. And not only is he using government names, but he's using official government insignia. And you hear, this was the insignia of the New York State Community Affairs Bureau. This is the insignia of the New York City Council Community Affairs Bureau. So there's a clear attempt to lead members of the public into thinking that he is a government official.
So as far as you know, he never had a legal non-for-profit?
I've been a member of the city council for 5 years. He has zero affiliation with either city government in general or the city council in particular, and he certainly has no affiliation with the state. He's a fraud.
What else do you know about him?
We know he has a criminal record. We know he's been convicted of crimes relating to financial misconduct. And again, I would never use someone's criminal record to stigmatize that individual. My concern is his present conduct. It's his pattern of defrauding members of the budget.
Is he a resident from the Bronx?
I believe he is rooted in Staten Island.
Yes, his father's law office is Staten Island, and his last known address is Staten
But as
Island.
far as I can tell, he seems to primarily operate in the Bronx. But he purports to be a citywide and statewide organization, and he has a questionable law practice in Staten Island. And it's actually his father's a judge.
Do you have any information
Prominent.
about if he's getting more Latino people in order to do those roles that all the community?
Based on my observation, is that he's primarily preying upon communities of color and lower income.
What are these fees for? I mean, why is he getting business cards from them?
Because I think and keep in mind, the members of the Community Affairs Bureau can themselves be victims. Right? These are the people who are paying R.A. Gregg hundreds of dollars in untold fees.
For what?
For the feeling that they're participating in public service. Right? If someone said, if you pay me $500, you can be part of the New York City Council, you can serve your community, you can represent the city at various events, whether it's community board or precinct councils, I could see why that's seductive. Right? The notion that you get to wear a badge and have a title and you can operate as an agent of city government, I think that is a seductive scheme that he's been able to perpetrate against a number of people.
Other than Guzman Feliz, do you believe other people have been victimized?
I do.
And then you're asking people to come forward to,
Well, I mean, I know of one constituent who provided me with the email.
that he received from R.A. Gregg telling him to pay hundreds of dollars in fees. And he was on the verge of doing so until I informed him that it was a scam.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman.
Thank
Thank you, Ms. Feliz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a safe day. Thank you.
Mary Murphy just finishing up the press conference here for Pix 11 News. Councilmember Richie Torres was joined by Junior's mother, Leandra Feliz, to talk about one organization that they're calling a sham. They've sent a letter out to cease and desist, asking for donations. That organization was going by the name New York State Community Affairs, and was using official logos associated with city and state government. And so now a cease and desist letter has gone out. And there are other foundations that have been under scrutiny as well by the Attorney General's office. No official action has been taken by the state aside from the cease and desist order. So we will be following this story as we have for the last couple of months, because we did a story with Councilmember Torres and some other people that were under scrutiny just over a month ago. You may have seen that on Pix 11 News at 10. So just please keep following us, because we are staying with this, and we keep in touch with Ms. Feliz, Junior's mother. Thank you.